Elizabeth at a costume change. I've never had that at a storytelling night. Totally extra credit. Well, I am your last teller for the evening, so I would like to thank you guys one more time for coming out, and one more enormous thank you specifically to Lauren from Postino, because it was Lauren's idea to say yes to me when for like the millionth time I was like, hey, you guys should totally host us sometime, and she's like, oh, we'll rent all these chairs, we'd love to have you in GIlbert. So one more super thank you. Because she said yes. That's how these storytelling nights happen. Someone just says yes to me. It's also how I get dates. I don't know, I backed myself into that corner. There's no excuse for that. So my story is about something that's taken me a really long time to learn. A lot of us have a million reasons for why we are not going to say yes. And we're always being asked to do something. You know, mothers, right? Mothers are actually the most yes-saying people in the world. Not that they just said yes because they had the babies, but they're the most you guys totally just got that, didn't you? Moms are like the most volunteering cohort of people in America. So this crowd is actually filled with a lot of moms. So there are people who say yes all the time. But there are the rest of us who make these sort of like laundry lists of why we might not be adequate to do something, or why we don't have the time, or why we can't follow through, or like, what if it's terrible, or what if no one likes me, or like, what if I'm a failure? And one of the times I hear a lot of these questions and curiosities and wonders is when I talk about being a part of the Big Brothers Big Sisters program, because I've been a big sister for 8.5 years, and I wasn't nervous. Oh, yeah, thank you. But I wasn't really nervous when I started to do it. I joined the program because when I came to Arizona, I had no friends and I was really lonely. This is true. And my brothers and sisters were left back in the Midwest, and I have a twin sister, and I was just used to sharing my time with people all the time, and like constantly compromising, constantly making concessions to others. And so I was really uncomfortable, like literally deciding whatever I wanted to do just for me all the time. This probably sounds like a fantasy to many of you in the audience. Like, just imagine if you had dick to answer to all day long. You just went to the movies if you wanted to go to the movies, just went to the grocery store when you felt like going to the grocery store. You just watched whatever TV you wanted to watch. Yeah. But on the flip side, it's actually kind of lonely if you're not used to it, or if it's not your natural, inclination. So I totally rented a little buddy, and in the years after that, a lot of people always say, oh, I wish I could do that. And I'm like, there's a waiting list of 300 kids. Turns out you can. And they have reasons why they can't. And so tonight I want to share with you some of the reasons why your reasons might be a little less legit than you think. So one of the big reasons that people say they can't do it is like, what if I don't have anything in common with my little? Like what if they don't like me, and what if I don't like them? And I'm always like, OMG, totally no big deal. I'm a really, really shallow person. So when I went to Big Brothers Big Sisters, I was like, okay, here's my list. And I'm not kidding you. I was like, I want a kid that does pretty well in school. I don't want a kid from a jacked up home because I'm not going to be able to relate to that kid because I came from a super good family. I want a kid who talks a lot because I'm going to be totally uncomfortable if I'm the only one talking constantly. I said, I want a kid who kind of like, I don't know, has an opinion or has something to talk about or something like that. And I knew I was going in with a list, but they also said, don't imagine that you wouldn't be friends with anybody, right? You meet hundreds of thousands of people in your life and you're not friends with them. You're only friends with some people. And they said it's just like that with a little. Like you can't just take any kid in the system. You want a kid you'll get along with. So lo and behold, they come to me with this little girl, and one of the first times we hung out, she was like wearing a hat, like just so, and she's like in the 3rd grade. You totally had a hat. And I was like, oh my God, she's wearing a hat. She's totally stylish. This is gonna be great. We're totally gonna get along. So that was like lesson number 1. It's totally okay if you're shallow, because they will find a kid for you. Another one of the things that people are really concerned about is like, well, what are we gonna do together? Because like, I don't know how to entertain a kid. I can barely entertain my friends, and we're drinking. And so now I'm going to tell you some of the times that I thought I was going to really be entertaining. This one time I took Lorena to see Santa. She'd never seen Santa, and I thought it was like an abomination. And it's a little weird, right? She's Mexican and her family's Catholic, so I kind of thought they would be really into Christmas, but they're not. So we go to see Santa at Fashion Square, and I am so excited! I am like, we're going to see Santa, and I'm such a good person, and we're going to see Santa, and I love Santa. Like, who doesn't love Santa? And we're at the mall. And like Lorena like gamely sits on Santa's lap. We both sit on his lap. We get our picture taken. She totally makes up some shit she wants to ask him for. And then as we're leaving, she like looks at me and she's like, you know, that's not like the real Santa, right? And I swear to God, I didn't know what to say because I was like, does she believe? Does she not believe? Is she conning me? Is this like a joke? Am I being like, you know, is this like a test? And I'm like, what? And she's like, Megan, I know that this was important to you. I was like, mortified. But I also was like, oh my God, she's such a good person. Like, I think I'm a good person. Clearly, she's the better person here. So, you know, I just was like, well, apparently 10 is too old for Santa. A lot of you probably already know that, though, because you're grown-ups and you maybe met 10-year-olds before, and you realize that is like the bleeding cusp of the ability for a child to fake their belief in this. I didn't know that at the time. There's some other really awesome stuff I thought would be awesome. Like this one time I took her to Cardinal Stadium to see a Tostitos Bowl, and we had bitching seats. We were like 50-yard line, like so close, and like she makes it to halftime and she just looks at me and she's like, it's like so loud in here. And it is like balls loud. If you have never been to jobbing.com, or not jobbing.com, to Cardinal Stadium, University of Phoenix Stadium, it is so loud. So you know we left. Exact same thing happened when I took her to see the Suns, and that was even more crushing because my dad took me to see Chicago Bulls games in the old Chicago Stadium, and I thought, oh, I am awesome. I am like carrying on the Mike Finnerty tradition of taking girls to see professional sporting events really high up in the nosebleeds. But I was just so excited because it was something my dad had taken me to do, and it was very, very important to me as a child, and I just thought, I'm going to take Lorena to see the Suns, and this is just, I am such a good person. And she was just like, why are people yelling so much? It is so loud in here, and I feel like everyone's mad, and you know they were, because we were getting crushed. Who is totally the wrong game to take a kid to. Not the right game for like a first athletic experience. Like this was not a cool crowd, and the Suns were not doing well. We also left that game early. So that lesson is like, turns out it doesn't matter, even if you're a colossal failure, you still have a good time. Which is true. Another question that people ask is, you know, what if we don't have anything really in common? Like we hang out, but then like, what if it's not working, or like she's nice, but or he's nice, but I'm nervous that like we won't be able to sustain it. What if we don't have anything to do or talk about? And I said, you know, okay. One of the things that I thought Lorena and I always really had in common was our mutual love of fashion, because like I said, when I very first met her, she had these little hats and she'd have these little outfits, and I would say Lorena has an aggressive sense of style, and so do I, and I've always really respected that about her. She has multiple facial piercings, she has 2 tattoos, obviously she has amazing hair, she clearly has the best hair tonight, and I was really impressed by that, because when I was in college, I dyed red streaks in my hair. I didn't commit to a full head, and I was an adult at that point. Lorena's been dyeing her hair like this for years. Other things we had in common, like I would describe Lorena as somewhat of a fashion risk taker, also something I have in common. My bosses have told me not to wear things to work before, not because I looked slutty, but because I looked stupid. You know, my father told me I dressed like a clown to my face as like a means of parenting me from age 15 to 17. Like he thought this was like he was helping me dress better. I thought he was an ass. I thought it was a big moment when he stopped being like, you look like you got dressed in a blender. Admittedly, I would wear these like plaid pants with a tie-dyed shirt, but I thought I matched because like the blues were the same. This is a true story. Well, so all along, I am just so impressed with Lorena's personal sense of style and like her grooming and like her identity. And so, you know, one day I'm like cleaning out my closet and I'm thinking, I say to her like, oh, do you want any of these clothes before I just donate them to the Goodwill? And they weren't loser clothes. I'm thinking like, these are some dresses, like a dress I even wore in Vegas once, and like black skinny jeans and like just stuff I didn't wear anymore. And she like tries them on and she like gamely like wedges herself into my clothes. Even though we're not built the same, it works. So I think awesome. I'm awesome. Like I've donated some clothes to her now. She'll wear them. She'll have a few more things to wear. I won't donate them to the Goodwill. It'll be great. Well, like months later, I go to her house and we're getting dressed for something. And I'm like, oh, why don't you wear, you know, this or this or this or this or this? And then I see like she opens up these closets and these drawers and like they're all the clothes I loaned her are like in a ball, like they're all in balls, like wadded, they're like under stuff, or they're like folded neatly, like as though they've never been worn. And I was like, what? And she was like, well, you wanted to give them to me, and I wanted to take them. I was like, you've never worn any of them. And she was like, well, like, I don't know. And I was like, well, what about like this dress? And then she goes, well, I'm not going to the beach. The problem with that is I totally wore that dress out in Las Vegas. Like, this is so true. I couldn't make it up. It's so pathetic. And I was like, oh, to you, this is a beach cover-up? I like wore it with black lace fingerless gloves and heels. Like, so we have just like really different ideas about fashion, but we've pushed through that. We also have, I learned that we have really also different expectations about like, going out. One time I thought, and this was in our early days, and unlike, I knew going into this relationship that I was an upper middle class white girl from the Midwest. So I actually was always really aware of any assumptions I might be making about Lorena or her life or her family. And I always tried to be pretty, not self-conscious, but at least self-aware. And, but I love Mexican food. So our 8 years together has been me trying to drag her into Mexican restaurants and her being like, I eat this at home. And it's like a fail, right? But this one time, years and years ago, I convinced her, I'm like, oh God, we're totally gonna get awesome Mexican food, and my indie cred is gonna be amazing, right? I'm gonna go with a Mexican kid to a Mexican restaurant, we're gonna eat Mexican food, it's gonna be great. And we order, and she sits there and she opens the burrito and starts excavating out all of the black beans, which I'm a little freaked out by. And then she takes the fork and she skewers it, and quietly under her breath, she says, hello, black beans, we meet again. I'm like, what? And she was like, I don't really like this. I am so screwed. We are brand new in our relationship. Now I'm gonna live with you in Phoenix and never go to Mexican restaurants. And it's true, we never go. Conversely, I went to her house once for dinner, and I was really excited to get authentic Mexican food. Her parents are both from there. Lorena was born in the United States, but her mom and dad are born in Mexico. You know that they served me spaghetti. And I was trying to be cool, and I asked Lorena, I was like, do you eat spaghetti a lot? And she's like, no, my mom made it for you. Yeah, she did. So we've been together now 8.5 years, and I would say that I have rarely gotten anything right, because if these are just the tiny short stories that are easy for me to tell, you can imagine how much more of those must she have of all the times that I got everything really wrong. But recently Lorena graduated from high school, and I'm very excited about that. And one of my friends asked her what was one of the big things that she learned from me. And, she was like, we don't have the same taste in fashion and all this other stuff. And she said, she taught me to always believe in myself, even if other people don't, and she taught me to keep trying at things, even if I don't get it right the first time, or if I fail, or if it's hard. And my heart stopped. Because even though I have, it's true, been teaching her about proper eyebrow maintenance, and that you have to, the 3-step face washing thing, and to always paint your nails, and when you eat hot Cheetos, you can't wipe it on your pants because it stains. The fact that was the lesson that she took away from me, I was like, whew, okay, well, I guess it doesn't really matter whether or not you're shallow and you can't think of anything fun to do, and you basically get all the little moments wrong if I got the big lessons wrong. So my lesson is actually one for you. If you've ever considered volunteering with children, or giving your time to a civic organization, you should take all the things that you're nervous about yourself, and you should just accept that you will fail wildly and you'll screw it up constantly. And that fundamentally, if you just get one thing right, whatever that thing is, her eyebrows look amazing, by the way, then that will be enough. And so that is my lesson for the evening. Thank you. All right, Lorena, you get to stand up. You just say thank you. Hi. So with that, you guys get to vote for our best storyteller of the evening, and I'm going to run through the names.